That Friday started off like any other. The weekly word test had been given, the day's story had been read, and it was time for our daily math meeting. But when I noticed the date was the 9th of September, I instinctively asked my first grade students an off-topic question, something I was careful not to have done in the past. What very important day is coming up in 2 days? Silence filled the room. After a few seconds, one brave student slowly raised her hand. Sunday? At that moment, I realized the students that sat before me were only 6 and 7 years old. 10 years ago, something happened that changed everyone's world, and they had not yet been born. I could have done as I had always done up until that moment, keep my students on track and continue on with our math meeting. Or I could forget about the calendar, weather graph, and daily objective for a moment, and have an important conversation with my students. My decision changed the way I looked at teaching from that day forward. As a first-year teacher, my biggest concern was the success of my students. My insecurities ranged from behavior management to ensuring my students made significant growth on the NWEA tests. After weeks of pre-service, meetings, and memorizing every vital rule of the school, the first day of school came and went. In the weeks that followed, I made sure everything I taught adhered to the strict guidelines of the curriculum. I did everything by the book, crossed every T and dotted every I, and made sure my students did too. My time management was impeccable. I covered everything I was supposed to in the correct amount of time, and my classroom ran like clockwork. Until September 9th, 2011. I realized that day that there are some things that books and schedules can't prepare a teacher for. When my students didn't know why September 11th was an important day in our history, I had stumbled upon a teachable moment, and I seized the opportunity. The very important day is September 11th, and I want to explain to you why this day is so important. Keeping the information age appropriate, we had a 20-minute conversation. My students asked insightful questions and expressed their concerns and shock at this unfamiliar history of our country. As my first year of teaching is coming to an end, I realize my first graders have taught me something very important, that flexibility within a structured classroom setting is crucial for the growth of my students. This is something that I will take with me in my future years as a teacher.